Is your snoring so loud that even your neighbors know when you've fallen asleep? Stay with this video because the right little device could finally give you and everyone around you a quiet night. So, in this video, we're diving into the best comfortable anti-snoring devices that normal people can actually wear all night without wanting to rip them off at 2 a.m. And hey, stick around till number 1, because that's the one that finally made snoring feel like a problem of the past rather than a constant nightly battle. 6. Clear Passage Nasal Strips Extra Strength. These are the classic adhesive strips that go right over the bridge of your nose and gently lift your nasal passages open to help you breathe more freely. They're designed to work instantly to reduce snoring that's caused mainly by nasal congestion from colds or allergies. And in that specific situation, they actually do a decent job of opening things up. You stick one on, give it a few seconds, and you can feel the nose physically lifting and the airflow improving a bit. Now, comfort-wise, they're fine. They're lightweight, they don't feel bulky, and once you get used to the slight pulling sensation, you kind of forget they're there. But, the adhesive is a bit of a double-edged sword. On clean, dry skin, the grip is strong enough to last the night, which is good. But if your skin is even slightly oily or you sweat a lot, you can feel them loosening at the edges. And when you peel them off in the morning, especially if you've got sensitive skin, well, let's just say it can feel like a mini waxing session on the bridge of your nose. In terms of actual snoring reduction, these strips shine most when the snoring is clearly driven by a blocked or stuffy nose. If your main problem is deeper airway obstruction in the throat or your jaw dropping back while you sleep, these won't really do much for that. 5. SleepRight Intra-Nasal Breathe Aids. Instead of sticking something on the outside of your nose, this little device actually sits just inside your nostrils and gently expands them from the inside. The idea is to increase your nasal airway volume by up to about 58% more airflow compared to standard nasal strips, which is a pretty big jump on paper. When you first look at it, you might think there's no way that's comfortable, but once it's in place, it's lighter and more flexible than it appears. The flared ends rest gently inside the nostrils and open things up without any heavy pressure points. Because it's reusable and doesn't rely on sticky adhesives, you don't get that skin irritation or residue you sometimes get with external strips. And for people who hate the idea of ripping something off their face in the morning, that's a real plus. It's also latex, BPA, and drug-free, which is reassuring if you're sensitive to materials. Now, here's where things get a little, well, it depends. The device absolutely helps with airflow when the nose is the bottleneck. You can feel the air moving more freely, and if your snoring is linked to nasal restriction, it can calm things down significantly. But you are still putting something inside your nose, and for some people, that takes a few nights to get used to. The first couple of nights, it can feel a bit foreign, like you're vaguely aware of something sitting there. And if you're a light sleeper or a restless sleeper, that initial awareness can be mildly annoying. One thing to be aware of is sizing and fit. SleepRight promotes it as a one-size design that flexes to fit, and most noses will be okay with that. But, you know, noses are as unique as fingerprints, and on very small or very large nostrils, the universal fit can feel slightly off, either a little too loose, or you're worried it might shift, or a bit too snug, causing a bit of soreness after a long night. It's not a deal breaker, but it's not as forget it's there as the top-tier options on this list. 4. Difiney Anti Snoring Device. The Difiney Anti Snoring Device is a mouthpiece designed to be worn inside the mouth that gently repositions the lower jaw slightly forward to open up the airway at the back of the throat. It's FDA cleared, which instantly gives it a layer of credibility in terms of safety and intended use. When you fit Difiney properly, you feel that subtle forward shift in your lower jaw. It's not extreme, but it's enough to keep those soft tissues in the throat from collapsing as easily when you fully relax in deep sleep. The device uses a boil and bite style material that molds to your teeth and bite pattern. So once you've gone through the setup process, the fit feels personalized and more secure. That customized feel means it tends to stay in place throughout the night without you clenching down or constantly adjusting it. Comfort-wise, for a mandibular advancement device, Difiney actually does a pretty respectable job. The edges are smoothed, the material feels medical grade and solid, and once you're a couple of nights in, the sensation of wearing it becomes far less noticeable. Of course, the first night or two, your jaw might feel a bit worked out in the morning. That's pretty common with this type of device, but many users find that this settles down as the muscles adapt. The trade-off is that in return, the nighttime snoring volume drops dramatically, and those long, rattling snore episodes become shorter, softer, or disappear completely. 3. Intake Breathing Nasal Strip. This one is not your typical flimsy paper strip. Intake uses a patented two-part system, small nasal tabs that adhere to your nose, and a magnetic relief band that sits across them to physically open your nasal passages to their widest capacity. It's a clever, more engineered take on the idea of a nasal strip, and it's designed not only for snorers, but also originally with athletes and heavy breathers in mind. When you set it up correctly, you can literally feel the nose opening more aggressively than with regular strips. The magnetic connection between the tabs and the band gives a firmer pull, and because the components are built from medical-grade plastic and strong neodymium magnets, the system feels sturdy and less likely to collapse or peel off if you move around a lot in your sleep. It's also made to be sweat-resistant, which is handy if you run hot at night or even want to use it during workouts as a bonus use case. In terms of snoring, the effect is particularly noticeable for people who are heavy mouth breathers simply because their noses never felt open enough. With intake, breathing through the nose suddenly becomes much easier, and that alone can encourage a more natural, quieter airflow pattern. Less resistance in the nose means less turbulence, and that can translate into softer or fewer snoring episodes, especially when congestion or narrow nasal passages are a big part of the problem. 2. ZQuiet Anti Snoring Mouthpiece. This is a flexible, ready-to-use mouthpiece designed to be worn inside the mouth to gently move the lower jaw forward and keep the airway open during sleep. What really sets it apart is its living hinge design, which means that even while the device is in, you can still open and close your mouth, speak briefly, or even take a sip of water without having to pop it out. In real-world use, that hinge makes a massive difference in comfort. A lot of traditional mouthpieces lock your jaw into a rigid position so tightly that you feel like a robot clamped shut. With ZQuiet, the jaw is advanced forward, but there's still a natural, flexible range of motion, so you don't feel as trapped. That makes it much easier to drift off without constantly thinking, "There's a big thing in my mouth." The device is also lightweight and streamlined enough that, after a few nights, it starts feeling like just another part of your nighttime routine rather than an intrusive medical gadget. Another huge plus is that ZQuiet is basically ready to go straight out of the box. There's no long molding ritual required for the standard version. You pick your level of advancement and pop it in. That's great if you're the kind of person who gets overwhelmed by complex fitting instructions or just wants to test whether a mandibular advancement mouthpiece could help without committing to a full custom process. 1. SmartGuard Anti Snore Device. This is where things really come together if you're chasing both comfort and serious snoring control. SmartGuard is a custom-fit, adjustable mandibular advancement device, but with a twist. You mold the upper and lower trays independently at home, and then they're connected by advancement bars that hold the lower jaw forward. That independent molding lets the device adapt closely to your unique arch shape and bite, so the fit feels much more dental grade than generic. When you first wear SmartGuard after properly molding it, the difference in stability is obvious. The trays hug your teeth snugly. The advancement bars keep your lower jaw in the exact forward position you've set, and the device stays put even if your mouth relaxes open while you sleep. That's a big deal, because a common problem with cheaper devices is that as soon as you fully relax and your mouth falls open, everything shifts and the effect is lost. Here, even with your jaw relaxed, the airway remains more open and the airflow stays smooth. One of the most impressive things about SmartGuard is just how adjustable it is. You can tweak the advancement up to about 6 millimeters, which means you can start conservatively and gradually move the jaw forward until you reach that sweet spot where the snoring drops off but your jaw still feels comfortable. This fine-tuning is incredibly valuable. It feels like you're dialing in your own personal setting rather than being stuck with a one-size-fits-all approach. Final thought. That's all for today, folks.